Hey, I realized I forgot to film an intro, so excuse everything about me. I'm a little bit sick at the moment. This is season 5A of my buddy analysis. I'm going to cut this into 4 sections. The first one is going to be talking about Eddie Anna and their relationship. The second part is talking about Buck Taylor and their relationship. Part 3 is going to be me talking about Buddie. And part 4 is going to be me talking about my hopes and dreams for season 5B. I might add little clips of me talking because as of me recording this little intro, the first episode of 5B came out and I have a lot of feelings about that, but I'll make a separate video about that. Alright, have fun watching. Thank you.
You know, I think we need to clean that kitchen first.
Maybe you should go home first.
I'm pretty sure when I filmed this a couple months ago, I said that I liked Eddie and Anna together, like they're cute and whatever. I didn't really think that like Eddie was gay because he seemed to have canonical feelings for Anna since like season 2 or 3 or whenever she was introduced. Like he seemed like he had a crush on her, and I said I would wait until season 5A to see what would happen. But judging from what happened, I really think that Eddie is gay, and I don't really see him dating other women because Anna kind of seemed like the perfect woman, and I'll explain why in a second. In episode 1, Chris, Eddie, and Anna are going shopping to buy Christopher a suit because they are going to Anna's niece's christening or something like that. So it's like a big kind of deal with like him meeting the family. And when he's explaining this to like the 911 fire fam, he's like, it's not a big deal, but everyone is like making it out to be a big deal, and he just seems like very weird about it.
And the sister's having a baby. Chris and I got invited to the christening next Sunday.
You and Chris at the christening? That sounds serious.
It's not. Not the way you guys are making it sound.
And I think this is kind of when it's becoming noticed that Eddie's not as committed to the relationship as maybe Anna is, and that he's not as invested as he should be. So anyway, they go shopping for a suit for Christopher, and Eddie tries on a couple suits as well. He looks so good. The shopkeeper mistakes Anna as being Christopher's mom, and Eddie has a panic attack because of this. There could be a couple interpretations as to why this happened. Eddie kind of explains why in episode 3, so I will get around to that. But at first glance, it could be a couple of things. It could be because Eddie is still dealing with the loss of Shannon, his wife, who died at the end of season 2, and having someone else basically replace her, and he's not quite ready for that. That could be one interpretation. But another interpretation, which is basically confirmed, is that Eddie is not quite committed to this relationship, and he gets freaked out when it's assumed that like she's part of the family. Eddie ends up being hospitalized because of this, and he mistakes this panic attack as a heart attack, which, I mean, like, I'm not gonna say that like he couldn't be correct, but like he was an army medic, so I would think that he would have some level of understanding the difference between like a panic attack and a heart attack. And the doctor said
it could be called repression,
which is a very interesting word. Like, repression for what? Like repression for his feelings, that maybe he in fact is a homosexual, or that he's repressing this memory of him at the end of season 4 where he got shot by a sniper, and that he's still dealing with the effects of that. And it very much seems like he is dealing with that still, and Chris is also very upset about the fact that his father almost died, especially since he's the only parent now. So Chris is very sad, especially after dealing with the loss of his mum. In season 5, episode 2, Anna and Chris visit the firehouse, and the vibes are just off. I don't know what it is about it, but it's just painfully awkward to watch.
I'm Anna.
Hi.
Hi.
You must be Eddie's wife?
Not yet.
And I think that's the point, because like Chris is having a great time. Like Buck gives Chris like a massive hug. He's like Chris's second dad basically, and like Eddie just seems very fond of that bond that those two have. So maybe Eddie wants Buck to be part of his family instead of Anna. Poor Anna. I feel so bad for her, she has to introduce herself to Ravi because like Eddie never got to introduce her, which I think is something that like he should do if an outsider is coming into the group and like you're the one introducing them. In season 5 episode 3, after all the craziness of the emergencies that have happened in the start of this season, Eddie finally gets to go home. Like a lot of the people in the firehouse have been stuck there for like 5 days because there's like a power outage, there's a lot of emergencies, and they're very short staffed, so they have to like stay at the firehouse and like sleep in the bunks and whatnot. So Eddie finally gets to go home after like 5 days, and while he's been at the firehouse, Anna has been looking after Chris for 5 days, as like, you know, a good partner would in that kind of situation. And it's just very awkward when he comes home because it just very much seems like he's trying to break up with Anna.
Maybe you should go home first.
It has no right to be as funny as it is, but it's just kind of funny because I don't think he knows how to break up with her and like how to do it nicely. And a lot of people have been saying that like he's kind of an asshole for that, especially since like she's taken care of Chris for 5 days, and I completely understand where they're coming from, but like we see it from Eddie's perspective of like not really knowing what to do and like not to try and lead her on, even though they've been dating for a couple months. But I think he's just kind of realized that she's not the one for him. I mean, that's completely healthy to like realize that she's not the one and to break up with her as nicely as possible. So anyway, like the two of them go off into the kitchen to have like a bit of privacy, like away from Chris, and Eddie breaks up with her, and like Anna kind of like saw this coming, and she was like a bit of a dick to him, but I kind of understand. But at the same time, it just seems like she's like mocking his like mental health issues because of his panic attacks.
Maybe we should sit down.
Why? You're fine? You're not gonna pass out or anything, right? Your heart rate? Not going up?
Yikes, especially considering that she has been seen to be ableist in the past towards Chris, and that's very up to interpretation. I'm not disabled, so I'm not saying definitively, but like people with disabilities have said that she's been ableist, so I'm going to take their side and believe them. So this just does not look good for Anna, especially since this is like her last scene in the show. The shot of like them breaking up, it's the most beautiful shit I've ever seen. Like, it's just gorgeous. It's the most beautiful shot like in the entire show, like for sure. Like the lights coming in through like the window of the kitchen, it's just so beautiful. And it kind of, I only just realized this now, it kind of just looks like that this might be like a new like resurrection for Eddie. I don't know, like when you talk about like seeing like the white light, it's kind of like you're going into heaven and being reborn. I don't know what I'm saying or if this even makes sense, but it just very much seems like Eddie has seen the light and he's like realizing that this is like a good thing for him to move on and maybe figure things out for himself. Eddie, during this breakup scene, he's like so tense, like he's leaning up, like arms kind of crossed, like just leaning against the refrigerator, which by the way, like behind him on the refrigerator, there's like a couple of magnets. Stan Twitter went crazy, creating like magnet theories about what's going on and what this means, and that like each magnet represents like a different person, like Taylor and Anna and Buck and Eddie and Chris, and I kind of believe it, even if it's just like stupid little magnets that don't mean anything. Everything in TV's up to interpretation. And if people want to say that like the 3 magnets holding hands are Buck, Eddie, and Chris, and then the 2 left out are like Anna and Taylor, then people are allowed to say that. And I think it's so much fun, even if it is a little bit stupid. Anyway, Eddie's so tense during this scene, and then like when she leaves to go say goodbye to Chris and then to like go home, he seems like so relieved. It just kind of seems like a weight has been lifted off his shoulders because like, oh thank God she's like gone. Like the crazy thing is that he can't force feelings, but it just like by the way that they were like set up, it just seemed like Anna was like the perfect person for Eddie. You know what I mean? Like they bonded over like them being Hispanic, even though like the actress is not Hispanic and that's a whole thing, but like the characters bonded over that, and like they're both very beautiful people. And I'm not saying that like looks and like, you know, being from the same ethnicity means that like they're compatible, but it just very much seemed like they both got along really well because they both loved kids and all that stuff, but it just seemed like they were only really together because of their love for Chris, and Eddie seems to show like his love through Chris and like kind of using him as a shield almost to like use Chris as an excuse for like not dating in season 2, and like using Chris as a reason to put Buck on his will so that like if he dies then he gets to look after Chris, which just like shows how much he really respects Buck. And I'm going to be talking about them a little bit more later. Yeah, like after that, I don't really see Eddie dating another woman just because I feel like we've gone through that story enough of like Eddie trying to move on from Shannon. And it just seems like he was kind of almost using that as a shield as well. And like, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with him wanting to take time after his wife died. Like, absolutely not. Like, take all the time you need. Like, that's what Bobby did. But what I am saying is that I don't think that he is necessarily attracted to women. I don't know, I just get that vibe. I can't explain it. It just very much seems like he and Buck have such like a great bond. Eddie and Anna, they were cute for a bit, but then when it came to like things getting more serious, Eddie was realizing that tried so hard to love her, but he just couldn't. Like the breakup scene was so beautifully shot and it was never talked about again, and I just don't understand why. Are they trying to build up for like a bigger storyline of like him in relationships? Because it doesn't even seem like he's really spoken about it with anyone in the Fire fam. Like I know he spoke to Buck about like wanting to break up with Anna and like saying that he was trying to find the right words to talk to Anna just before like he and Buck left the firehouse after all the emergencies and not being home for 5 days. I really hope that they explore more of that and like Eddie explaining stuff to the Fire fam in season 5B, because I think that would create some really good dialogue.
I guess no one is speaking to him.
That's 2 people, not quite everyone.
Next, I want to talk about Buck Taylor. I don't like him. I thought I liked him, but I really liked him as friends. I think that worked, but I think just in season 5A, it seemed a little bit off. Their relationship seemed very forced. For example, in episode 1, Buck and Taylor are in bed together and then just like chilling like, you know, partners do. Taylor is trying to like figure out what caused the cars to crash from the first emergency, because like in the first emergency like a car's GPS just wasn't working, so it ended up off the pier. So Taylor's trying to figure out what actually happened, and like Buck tries to get Taylor to like stop focusing on work and just, you know, be together as a couple. Taylor entices him to like have sex under false pretenses so then she can get access to his phone and check if a software update actually was the cause to like the GPS malfunction. Buck seems really unhappy with this because he just like wanted to have some time with Taylor, but she was like too focused on work to like really just like be committed with him in that moment. Taylor's a girl boss. I really respect her work ethic, but I think in terms of like a relationship, it doesn't seem like she's fully committed to it, which is just like really sad because Buck has a history of not feeling appreciated in relationships and he deserves better. At the end of episode 3, after like all the Fire fam finally get to go home, we see like a montage of like everyone going home to their family and whatnot, and we just see Buck walking up to his apartment and then up to his bed alone, and he turns on the TV and he sees Taylor on the news and he just sarcastically says,
Hey, honey.
which is like on a play on like, hi honey, I'm home, but like she's not actually home. And it just very much seems like he wants someone to like go home to at night after work, and I just don't think that provides that. The last thing I want to talk about, I feel like there's more, but I only wrote down like 3 things. The last thing is episode 9. Taylor has to go to Arkansas or something like that because her father's on trial for the supposed murder of her mother, and like we don't know what the actual truth is, and this gives like a bit of insight into why Taylor likes searching for the truth. But I just feel like it's a complete misstep because our introduction to her in season 2 was her trying to exploit Bobby's basically attempted suicide, where he's been dosed, he's high on LSD I'm pretty sure, and he starts hallucinating his daughter who died a couple years ago, and she was filming the whole time, and like Bobby goes up to the roof and it looks like he's about to jump because like he's so high that he thinks Brooke is there and he's trying to like go towards her, and like thankfully he doesn't jump and everything's fine. But Taylor was about to like broadcast this, and she tells Buck the only reason she didn't do this is because your lawyers are scarier than ours, which just doesn't seem that nice, especially since like her tragic backstory is like her moving around a lot as a kid, having people find out what happened to her mom, and like her father supposedly killed her. And it just seems like a complete misstep, because if she knows how harmful exposing people's stories like that is, then why did she try and do that to Bobby? It doesn't make sense. But I think the writers are trying to just like completely disregard that aspect of her character in season 2. So anyway, Taylor's about to go to Arkansas, and Buck is like paranoid that Taylor's just gonna like leave him, just like Abby did to him at the end of season 1, where she just like went off to Europe and never came back. And he's worried that she's gonna do the same thing to him, so he like confronts her and says like, if you're just gonna break up with me, go ahead and break up with me. Taylor's like, this doesn't concern you, and like I feel so bad for Buck because he's like, no, like I demand an answer, but he just seems like so shaky when he does it, which just makes me like really sad because of like how his past relationships have gone, especially since in season 4 Taylor calls him needy.
God, you're so needy.
And I think he's just worried that pushing this is gonna make him seem needy. Anyway, Taylor goes to Arkansas. Buck meets up with her there. Things don't go well for her. Like, she was originally gonna be like a character witness for her dad's character and to like say good things about him, but she's like, I couldn't do it because I don't actually know for sure if my dad is a killer or not, like if he actually killed my mom or if she committed suicide. Like, she doesn't really know the truth, and Taylor is quite emotional about this, which makes sense. She just looks at Buck and says, well, I guess we both came here for nothing. I just feel bad for Buck because like he tried to do a nice thing and like be there for her when she needed him. So anyway, they both go back to Buck's apartment, and Buck's comforting Taylor, just like sweet relationship stuff. Then while like they're cooking dinner, Taylor says, I love you to Buck for the first time, and it just feels off. It doesn't seem like Buck like loves her back. It just seems like he said it because he felt like he had to say it because she said it first, so that's like the natural kind of thing to do. Yeah, it just like feels really off. She's just like, yeah, I love you too, I guess. He doesn't say that, but it just seems like that vibe. And in season 5, episode 10, it's a very small thing, but it's like the Christmas episode, and they don't really know what to get each other for Christmas. So Taylor gets Buck a sweater. Dude, he's not your grandma. I don't know, I just think after you've been together for a few months, you could think of something better than a sweater. But anyway, Buck's gift isn't much better. He basically gets her like a GPS like tracking device. Like, it's a bracelet, but it like tracks your movement. And I'm just thinking, she's not like 90 years old, you know what I mean? She's not gonna click it after she has a fall. Like, that's something I would get like my grandma if she was still alive, you know what I mean? To like, you know, make sure that she doesn't die from like having a fall because of her bad hips and whatnot. I feel like this gift is only there because it's gonna serve like a narrative purpose later down the line, where she like uses that bracelet to like call for help because she's unable to use her phone or whatever. Like, that's what I'm thinking anyway. It just seems like a weird gift. Like, if someone got that for me, I would break up with them right there. I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Don't you try and control me. Buck Taylor ain't it. I'm sorry, Buck Taylor stands, but I don't see it. And someone posted a photo of Taylor and Abby side by side, and I'm just like, oh god, she's like Abby's daughter. This is not it. And also people say they look like siblings, and I kind of see it. They look more like siblings than me and my actual sibling. It doesn't make sense. It's weird. Let's talk about Buddie. So in season 5 episode 1, they're like responding to an emergency. Buck and Eddie are like so close together. Like, their shoulders are touching. Like, so close together. So anyway, like, they're responding to that emergency. Like, one person's having a heart attack, and then Eddie notices that someone else is like exhibiting symptoms of a heart attack, and like he gets up, and as he's walking over to like the patient, he puts his hand on Buck's shoulder. What in the homosexual is this? Why put hand on shoulder if not gay? As I explained in the Eddiana section, Eddie goes to hospital because of his supposed heart attack. The cardiologist kind of breaks doctor-patient confidentiality.
Diaz?
I wasn't expecting to see you again so soon. How you feeling?
Good. All good.
And Buck's like, what the hell is going on? And he tries to talk to Eddie about it.
Hey, what was with that doctor on the way in? Why is she asking if you're all right?
It was nothing. I wasn't feeling well the other day, so she checked me out.
She's a cardiologist at a hospital. Are you saying you had a heart attack?
No, I'm not saying I had a heart attack. I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying I didn't have a heart attack.
I did think you were having a heart attack.
Can we just drop this?
He gets like really protective, which is kind of cute. And Hen and Jim are like, do you want us to take over for you guys? And Buck's like, sounds good. Eddie really shouldn't be exerting himself right now. Like, he's just squeezing a bag. It's not that much exertion. He's not running a marathon. He's just squeezing a bag. In episode 2, it's revealed that Buck takes Chris to the zoo all the time and that he's got the place memorized. How adorable is that?
You know, they have serious predators. The LA Zoo, a snow leopard, a Sumatran tiger. Takes Christopher there all the time, got the place memorized. A chimpanzee. A chimp will literally rip your face off without even thinking twice about it.
Eddie just seems so infatuated. It's kind of adorable. It's like, bro, you got a girlfriend, but you're simping over this man. Go off. Later on in the episode, Buck gets Eddie to tell him about the panic attacks because, I don't want to say Buck's pushy, but like, he kind of does push information out of people, and it always comes from a good place.
You don't give up, do you? I'm fine, Buck.
Now, people who are fine don't go and see cardiologists. Look, you need to tell me if something is wrong.
All right. It was a panic attack. Not a heart attack. Panic.
Since when do you panic?
That's what I said. I don't panic.
Eddie tells him that he thinks they've been brought on by Anna and that he's not ready for like a ready-made family, even though he's kind of got that with Buck, but I don't think he quite like realizes it. Buck talks about how he's like been Anna in relationships, which is just kind of sad because like he knows what it feels like to like be more invested in a relationship than the other person.
My kid loves her.
Is that enough? Eddie, I have been Anna. I know what it's like to be in love with someone who is not all the way in. Deep down, you know it, and it hurts. It hurts worse than the truth. So if you don't want to hurt Anna, you owe it to her, to be honest.
This might be nothing, but when Eddie like talks about Anna, he usually like says her name is like Anna, but then like in this scenario, he says like Anna.
If I'm being honest with myself, I think it was Anna. We're back down in Flores.
I don't know if this was like a mistake on like Ryan Guzman's part or if this was like intentional to show that like he's being like more casual about this and is like not too focused on like, you know, calling her by like how her name is usually pronounced, but just to be like, yeah, Anna, like Anna, what's the fucking difference? In episode 4, I really don't like this scene that I'm gonna be talking about, but Chimney punches Buck because Buck is being a protective brother over Maddie, and like Maddie has run away because she's worried that she's a bad mom, but she's not a bad mom. She just is dealing with stuff because she has postpartum depression, so she thinks that she's like a horrible mom and that she's like gonna hurt her child, which I don't think is the case, but I have a whole issue with that storyline. But anyway, Chimney's like really worried and like his emotions are all over the place, which makes sense because like they're together, they have a baby together. It's very normal to be kind of concerned when Maddie just like up and leaves and like makes you like the sole carer of your baby without really leaving a solid explanation. Like that would be scary. Chimney gets Buck to tell him that like he like knew of Maddie's plan to like run away and he's been keeping this from Chimney, and then Chimney punches Buck. And I just did not like this. I did not like the amount of like violence that was in the first part of this. There was only 2 instances, but it's 2 times too many. That's just when Chim punches Buck, which is very out of character. And then the second is when Athena hits Harry, her son, which is like very out of character too. He's been traumatized enough. Leave him the fuck alone. So anyway, like we get this cute moment where Eddie comes over and is basically like kind of looking after Buck, which poses another question. Where was Taylor? Why was she not taking care of him? And apparently like a whole bunch of other scenes were cut from this episode. Like for example, when Bobby was meant to talk to Chimney about like his plan to chase after Maddie, that was cut from the show, even though that was literally in the synopsis. Like we had Henrietta talk to Chim, which I thought was nice because they're like besties. I thought it was cute that they left that in. Just furthers, you know, the buddy pipeline. So if we don't get it, I'm gonna be very pissed. Eddie gets Buck some ice to put on his eye. He's just being like very supportive of Buck and tells him that like, you're the guy that likes to fix things, and like he's being very sweet and very tender.
You love Maddie, and you love Chimney, and you're the guy who likes to fix things, but maybe this isn't something you can fix.
Ice goes on the eye, bud.
Ice goes on the eye, bud.
It's very cute. I don't really know what else to say. Also, this episode is called Home and Away, which is funny because Eddie was home and Taylor was away. In episode 5, Buck announces that he's going to be leaving the 118. Basically, Buck says that like Eddie is replacing Chimney and that Chimney is replacing him, and then Eddie says, who's replacing me? And I was kind of expecting Buck to be like, oh, you're irreplaceable, or like something really adorable like that. At the end of the scene, it's very cute where like all the Fire Fam are basically saying like, we encourage Chim to leave, like we don't blame you at all. Eddie says, you're stuck with us, and I think that's adorable, but it's a fucking lie. In episode 6, we have a buddy hostage situation, baby. Eddie is very angry the whole time, and an angry Eddie is an attractive Eddie. I had to say it. It's what we're all thinking. Basically, the captors are threatening Chris because they go through Eddie's wallet and see that he has a photo of Chris, and also his driver's license shows his address. So basically, when they're threatening Chris, Eddie is very upset, but Buck is like full on threatening him and like goes up to the captors, and they end up hitting Buck, which is not cool, but it shows that Buck really cares about Chris. I mean, I wish it wasn't while they were like hold at gunpoint, but cute, furthers the buddy pipeline. Eddie is sassy as hell the whole time, which is very funny because like someone accidentally calls Anna Chris's mum, full-blown panic attack, but when he's held at gunpoint, he's just sassy as hell. Just like death staring the captors. Eddie's seeming more under control when he's in a hostage situation than he is when he's in a relationship with a woman, which is very funny. But at the same time, he was in the army, so he probably was prepared for like how to deal with being kidnapped. So like after the whole hostage situation, basically in the episode, there was a prison riot and 2 prisoners like escaped, like posing as prison wardens, so then they could escort Buck and Eddie to the ambulance. But then it like turns out, surprise surprise, they actually are prisoners and they're taken hostage. And basically the reason for this is because the main captor, he wants to donate his heart to his son who needs a transplant but like isn't eligible because waiting lists and all that, so he kills himself and Eddie had to witness that. So not fun, more trauma for Eddie, yay. Afterwards, like the whole Fire Fam basically are in the emergency room waiting to see how the surgery goes, and Eddie and Buck is so far apart, they're like at opposite ends of the waiting room, which is like very funny because I think maybe the writers are like, let's not like give the buddyship as what they want, but like at the same time I feel like it would make sense for them to like be together to like talk about things. Someone on Twitter like posted the video of like Eddie saying like, I'm gonna go home to my son, and they say that it looks like Eddie kind of like paused and like looked at Buck to kind of like see if Buck would like maybe want to go home with him to like talk about things and like see Chris together. And like I don't know how to feel. I didn't really read too much into it when I watched it, and like I rewatched it after I saw that on Twitter, and like I didn't really notice it still, but like, you know, furthering the buddy pipeline, I will allow it, Your Honor. In episode 8, aka the only episode of this show that I've like ever cried to, this is a very emotional episode for like a whole multitude of reasons. Go watch it if you haven't. It's a ride, I'll tell you that much. Eddie is basically like catching himself from having a panic attack after he thinks he lost an 8-year-old kid and like the kid's baby sister during a fire, which I think will be good to see Eddie explore more of his like anxiety in season 5B, because it was very much like assumed based on what he said to Buck in episode 2 that his anxiety was mainly because of Anna, but since he feels this way in episode 8, this could be because Christopher's about that age. I think he's like 10 years old or something, so I think he's maybe like having a lot of anxiety around Chris and like wanting to protect Chris, especially since he's like a single dad, so he's like very protective of Chris and like wants to make sure he's okay. Buck comforts him like the best way he knows how, due to like the fast-paced like nature of this emergency, which is kind of nice to see the roles reversed, because usually we see like Eddie trying to comfort Buck after certain scenarios, but in this instance like the roles are reversed. I think the symbolism was very nice of Buck handing Eddie like a oxygen tank, because like Eddie needs oxygen because he's like kind of having a panic attack, like internalizing it, and when you're in that scenario you need to breathe because it feels like you can't breathe. It's not fun. In episode 9, as we discussed in the Buck Taylor section, Buck is concerned that Taylor is gonna break up with him, and like he's talking about this while they're on their way to an emergency. Bobby, being like Daddy Bobby, is explaining to Buck, like, you just like assume things in relationships without really communicating, and I think that's very true. Buck definitely does this.
I think she might have been living with me. I mean, we never explicitly said that, but she's there all the time. It sure feels like we were living together.
Why does this keep happening to you?
Well, to be honest,
I'm gonna tell you why. Because you don't talk to the women you're dating. You just go with the flow and find yourself in a relationship with no idea how you got there and what to do when things start to go wrong.
Yeah, who does that?
My point is, breaking up is not inevitable. You can turn it around, you just have to make the effort. Talk to Taylor, tell her how you're feeling, find ways to reconnect.
Buck playfully teases Eddie. He's like teasing him about watching like telenovelas with Chris.
My abuela would eat this up. She loves a good telenovela.
Oh, cause you don't? Come on, I know you watching with Christopher.
That's how we practice our Spanish.
It's not really a big moment, but it's just like cute little banter. When he realizes that Taylor is not breaking up with him, he tells Hen and Eddie, like his two besties, but he seems kind of disappointed. He's just like, she's not breaking up with me.
Did something happen with Taylor?
No, you guys are right. She's not breaking up with me.
In episode 10, Eddie talks to Buck about Christopher. Chris is dealing with a couple of things in episode 10. Like, he's like a little bit moody, and Carla is Chris's, not babysitter, but like social worker, I want to say, is basically saying like, oh, just like Chris is growing up and he's like forming his own opinions and stuff. But further in the episode, it's revealed that Chris is worried about his dad dying, which is just very sad, and it's a lot for a kid to be dealing with, especially since like his mum passed away, so like he understands loss, unfortunately. Anyway, at the end of episode 10, Eddie's like, I'm leaving the 118, peace out guys, and Buck just seems so disappointed, which makes sense because like they are work besties, but also it goes against Eddie's you're stuck with us pipeline, the you're stuck with us to I'm leaving the 118 pipeline. But like this is different because Eddie's leaving for like Chris's emotional well-being, which makes a lot of sense. I hope that Eddie figures things out. I'm sure that like he's gonna come back to the 118 in some scenario, because like he's not leaving the show. Like everyone knows that he's not leaving the show because Ryan Guzman has been contracted for like another couple years or whatever, and I'm excited to see where things go. In terms of what I'm expecting for 5B, I haven't written anything down, so I'm just gonna rattle off the top of my head. Like I said in the first section, I would like Buck to be canonically bisexual because Rosa Diaz became bisexual in season 5 of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I think it would be good symmetry if the same thing happened with Buck. He doesn't have to break up with Taylor for this to happen, although I wish it would because I do not like them together, but like that's not my decision. I think it would be cool if Buck just said it in passing because he seems very like not secretive about his sexuality. I would also like Eddie to come to terms with his sexuality and like figure out his feelings, maybe some buddy pining from either Buck or Eddie, and have it be obvious. Also, I think it's important to note that there's a lot of discourse about this show having too much LGBT representation, whatever the fuck that means. And I think that doesn't really hold merit anyway, because you can't have too much representation. Like, the representation's already kind of bad, and I've already kind of touched on that. But basically, representation is bad. In terms of volume, like, yeah, there are gay characters and, like, queer characters, but they're often given, like, sad storylines or just pushed to the side. And in 5A, Michael and David, who were two gay people on the show, they were together. They left the show because they moved to Haiti, even though in reality the actor that plays Michael is anti-vax, anti-COVID vaccination, which is not fun. But this also provides room for buddie to be a thing without it being like too much representation. Like, shut the fuck up. And also, I'm just gonna say this, Buck gets like a lot of screen time, which I'm not complaining about because I do enjoy his character. Although I wish we had more screen time with other characters. I think that Buck gets a lot of screen time, and I think it would be nice to see like a character that's already on the screen a lot and is already like well loved to have some like queerness to him, because it's not really out of left field from what I've said throughout this whole episode. He's just very casual about his sexuality. Doesn't seem like he's trying to hide anything, and like he's not exactly denying feelings for Eddie or any type of queerness about him. So I think it would be cool if someone who already has a lot of screen time to be bisexual, because one, you know, gay characters are very underrepresented, and two, like, he's already so well loved that I don't think people are gonna care, because I feel like this show leans more left than it does like right wing. So it just makes a lot of sense, because, you know, not many right wing people in my opinion are gonna be like, oh yes, the gay characters and the people of color and the gay characters who are people of color. Like, I think most of them would find that their heads would explode because they wouldn't know what to do with, well, not every character is white. Shit, there's no shows for me these days. Buddy canon 5B in some capacity, whether it's Buck realizing his feelings, or Eddie realizing his feelings, or Eddie realizing he's gay, or Buck saying that he's bi, or them getting together in some capacity. I don't care. I just want there to be some type of acknowledgement instead of just like queer coding, which is kind of borderlining on queer baiting, depending on how long they are thinking of stringing this out. With that being said, I don't want them to rush a relationship for the sake of rushing a relationship. I think it should feel organic instead of it just seeming like a fan service to like give us this relationship just because we've been asking for it. I want this story to be done with justice. Anyway, I think I've covered everything. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys soon. Bye.